So this is basically a summary of the mechanics. You've got to look about, which state you're going to be in. Do you want to do a merger? Do you want to do an acquisition? Look at a state law conversion. In other words, does your state allow you to just convert, or do you have to do a sale of the company? Do you want to do an asset sale or a stock sale? Have you done your due diligence? Have you got your paperwork together? Have you done your tax returns? Have you talked to your CPAs? Have you talked to your advisors? Have you got a valuation? Is it a valuation that everybody agrees to? Are you and the employees on the same page? Putting together a closing checklist, and we'll go over that on the next slide. And talk about legal formation. You've talked to your advisors. You've determined an entity choice. And then you do a press release.
If there is, in Washington, a rule for nonprofits converting, and what does the nonprofit need to dissolve before becoming?
We have 2 Washington attorneys. I don't know the answer to that.
Nonprofits would have to go to her.
A nonprofit, you want to convert a nonprofit to a for-profit or a co-op? Honestly, I don't know whether you can do it with a nonprofit. I think you can. It's because nonprofits are still corporations under Washington law, so you can convert a corporation to a co-op. Yeah.
But I know in Colorado, a nonprofit has specific dissolution statutes, and I think it would be considered a dissolution, and usually the assets from a dissolution have to go to another nonprofit.
Yeah, so you can't get around that. So we have the same rule. So if you have nonprofit, you can't have nonprofit. They're on your shareholders, right? There's no owners, and so you can't have any assets from that entity going to a for-profit entity, which are called a for-profit.
But there's often many times where we have.
You could basically sell the assets and have the owners then donate or do some other things. So the owners could, for the nonprofit can sell its assets. They can say, we're going to dissolve. But they have to take the profits that they get when they sell and donate it to whoever they've designated. So I think there would be a way to do it.
The other thing is there's a lot of nonprofits and co-ops that are affiliated with each other, a lot of them. So you might have a worker co-op that provides the services for a nonprofit. Okay? That happens a lot.
Have you ever seen any of that transfer of assets, sharing of assets through program-related investment?
Yes. Yeah, I do a lot of PRI work. We have foundations that are taking both individual donations and grant funds or endowment funds and investing them in co-ops as PRIs, program-related investments. It's a whole other it's a hybrid investment for a philanthropic foundation, private or operating foundation, can make an investment that has a rate of return into a for-profit, including co-ops, provided it meets 4 different tests. With the benefit being that the foundation can treat that investment, even though that investment comes out of its investment assets, it treats it as though it were a grant for its disposition requirement. Foundations must give grants for 5% of their endowment every year. And so the PRI qualifies as a grant, even though it's treated as an investment, and that investment income goes back into the endowment. They're pretty amazing. We've actually also had co-op clients find a fiscal sponsor under a Model C fiscal sponsorship and get tax-deductible donations through the fiscal sponsor, which flow into the co-op.
Legally?
My
legal.
meditation co-op's doing that.
Yeah, that's legal. It's called a Model C fiscal sponsorship, which means that the sponsored entity is legally incorporated. There has to be sufficient mission alignment. There's a specific test for how this can be done. What ends up happening is all the IRS requirements fall on the fiscal sponsor.
Yes, and as long as it's mission related.
Yeah. So for an incorporated entity, it's a great way. There has to be sufficient mission fit, but if there is, you can actually go out and raise tax deduct. So you look at that capital stack, you have member equity, you've got outside investment. You can also take in tax deductible donations.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
if it were just like, let's just say a tech coders co-op, there probably isn't going to be enough mission fit. But if it's a co-op of veteran workers, that has a lot of There's a lot of
Or
possibility.
low income, a nanny co-op, for example.
Yep. We've done a lot of those.
There's a lot.
How patient are the PRI investments, or like, what's the term before you have to?
There is no requirement. So the test for a PRI is the investment has to advance the charitable purpose of the foundation. It has to have financial gain as not its primary motivation, which is usually satisfied by taking above market risk or below market return, or you can show that a conventional market rate investor would not make the investment on those same terms. And 3, that the proceeds are not used for lobbying or electioneering. But it's a pretty flexible test, and you can actually end up with windfall gains and still meet the PRI test, so long as financial gain is not the principal motivation of the foundation. And you'd usually document that. And we've developed PRI memos for clients. We have a checklist that helps them document their purposes in making the PRI when we work on the foundation side.
And the foundations like it because they're getting their money back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a grant. It's being repaid, and they can reinvest that money again and again and again.
And they can meet their requirements.
And they meet
can
their grant requirements.
The foundations love it.
So are there model bylaws and formats, like centralized somewhere where we don't have to go and look up everything on state?
Talk to, John McNamara Co-op, the Northwest Co-op Development Center does great work with some initial starting point documents. Yep. But as you can see, the mechanics of a worker cooperative or employee ownership structure vary. So I think a lot will depend on, the kind of unique needs of the circumstances, but the basics, I think, are pretty well laid out or can be laid out. So these are just, some of the kind of initial or some of the closing checklist steps, the ones I'll mention. Even if there's a stock sale, you still usually need to provide notice to banks or notice to landlords. Not assignment, but a notice. New governing documents, a schedule of meetings. And we tell people through this 3-hour presentation and some amount of initial work, we do our best, the lawyers and professionals, in structuring what we think will work. But we always tell folks, plan on a tune-up in a year, plan on this evolving. This is going to change, and it should serve the business. You might have adopted committees that no longer make sense. You might have meetings that no longer make sense. We never tell folks to just continue conducting a meeting because it's on your books or because you've done it before. That's senseless governance. We tell people to consider and reevaluate governance functions to make sure it serves the organization, because ultimately our work is to empower the business to serve itself and for the members to serve themselves. So the documents should be accessible, should be adaptable. We've got lots of clients that amend their own documents. They only come to us if they want to have something memorialized, or they'll ask us and we'll tell them it's up to you. You can do whatever you want.
Other questions? Yes.
I have a question, it's more techie, I think, on LLCs. But because of LLCs are disregarded, we know that at a corporate level, if you have an LLC that's taxed as a corporation, or well it is. When it comes to actually doing a stock sale treated as an asset sale, I always make the LLCs convert to a corporation.
They have, for state purposes?
Yeah, because we don't have any stock. They legally have no stock. So I've always been concerned that if the IRS does an audit or goes back and checks and says you converted an LLC, it wasn't a corporation, it's a disregarded entity, it's taxed this way. But the IRS used to have criteria for if you're a duck, you must walk and act like a duck. So I always say if you want to be treated like a corporation, you need to be a corporation. So if it's an LLC and it wants to take advantage of that rule, then I make them convert first before we do a sale.
That makes sense. In the example I gave, we had an S corp. It was a corporation taxed as an S corp because the target, the entity being acquired, has to be an S corp. So, like you say, even an LLC taxed as an S corp should have some sort of it doesn't always, but it should have units or shares. But if I were doing the same thing, I would also convert it to a corporation first.
I just was wondering.
Yep. But the acquiring entity, my example, the acquiring entity was an LLC,
Okay.
but the target was an S corp
And I don't care
corporation.
about the acquiring
Right.
entity.
Yep. So,
Well, you do, but you don't.
yeah.
But except for Washington, that give the disclaimer that I don't like LLCs because if multi-member LLCs, and so I'm not fond of LLCs for a co-op model
Yep.
in Washington because of the fact that you can actually change your agreement by course of conduct or course of dealings or by verbal arrangements. It's not a good model.
No, we're not either.
Here's our contact information. Please give us a call, send us an email. You'll find us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and let us know.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today, for being a part of this, and
We
look
hope you
forward to your
enjoyed it. We
questions.
hope it was informative, and we wish you all the best of luck in forming new cooperatives all over the state of Washington.
Thank you.